There's a lot that I like about him, especially in the looks department, but let's not get into that. Can we stop for a minute and talk about how sexy he looks? That is right, everyone. Today we're gonna be making a tier list for Modern Warfare 2's campaign characters. So I made this tier list using tiermaker.com, and this is actually my own template because I didn't really like the ones that already existed. And I hope that I didn't miss any of the characters because I just made this based off of the Call of Duty fandom page. This is a casual laid-back video, so don't take my rankings too seriously, like this guy did in the last video. Anyway, let's start with Makarov, which we already know is an S tier because we already know who he is. I'm just kidding. He's not even in the game, so I can't really judge, to be honest. But the way they introduced him was just so cool. Like, at first they just pass over the phone in the last cutscene, and then after the credits, I think, we get a sneak peek where he sends a text message. It's just awesome. If we are going to judge based on the original series, he was an S tier or maybe an A tier villain. But we are judging based on the reboot, so for now it is an IDK, which stands for I don't know, if you didn't know. Now let's look at Farah, which, by the way, if you didn't know, it's an Arabic name which literally translates to the word happiness. And the way you say the name is supposed to be Farah with a ha at the end, with a ha sound, not Farah. But anyway, I liked her in the first Modern Warfare game because she had a big role, but in Modern Warfare 2, although they kind of have a reason for her to be in the story, it just feels like she was just there for fan service. It was like, hey, Laswell was captured, hey, can you help us get her back? It would be also good fan service since everyone liked you from the first game. And then Farah was like, oh yeah, sure, let's do this. And actually, it was pretty cool to meet her once again, even though she serves almost nothing to the main plot. I will just give Farah a D tier, and again, this does not mean that she's a bad character overall. It's just that she didn't have a very big impact in Modern Warfare 2, and only Modern Warfare 2. If we were talking about the first Modern Warfare, it would have been a different rating. Which, by the way, let me know in the comments if you want to see me do the same, like a tier list for Modern Warfare 2019. But anyway, I want to quickly move to Nikolai because he's very similar to Farah, where he's just there for fan service. But I kind of want to give him a little bit higher rating because he was present in one of the coolest sequences in the game, which was this one.
Nick, what's your status? Captain, get fell out. Say again? The sergeant, he's gone.
I'm not dead, Nick. I'm hanging from a bloody rope.
Gruto.
So yeah, I don't know, I'll just put him in C tier, like he's slightly better than Farah. Now let's talk about Diego, which is a throwaway character, so naturally there's not much to say about him except for maybe that he was an asshole, but they managed to make him memorable despite being a throwaway character by having him say this.
They call me Soup. ¿Quién verga se llama jabón? Let's go.
Which, if you don't know why it's memorable, it's because it's a throwback of this.
Go easy on him, sir. It's his first day in the regiment.
Right. What the hell kind of name is Soap, eh? How'd a muppet like you pass selection?
But anyway, I think he deserves a C tier, which is kind of high for a throwaway character, but let's be honest, we all kind of smiled or laughed when we first saw this in the game, so I think it's kind of deserving. Now let's talk about Valeria, which I'll instantly move to S tier because we can all agree that she's so fucking hot. Now, when I first saw her, I didn't think much of her, but in the cutscenes, damn, she's freaking hot. Beyond that attractive appearance, the way she argues with the other characters is pretty badass and memorable. Like, they really nailed the voice acting. They managed to make this character so memorable despite her barely having any screen time. Now, I put her as an S tier just as a joke, but really, I think she deserves an A tier for how memorable she was and how she just made the cutscenes so much more intense whenever she was on screen. Now, let's move to another bad guy that was in the game, which was Hassan Zayani. This is supposed to be the main antagonist of Modern Warfare 2, but honestly, it didn't feel like it. He didn't have any presence or anything memorable except for having a punchable face. He was just there to keep the story going forward, like, hey, let's keep looking for the missiles, but we also need to look for Hassan because he knows where the missiles are. Also, I just want to mention that I really hate saying Hassan. It's actually supposed to be Hassan with a Hassan, not Hassan, which by the way, it is also an Arabic name, which means good or handsome, which is kind of ironic because he's definitely neither of these two things. Despite that, the final boss was against Hassan, and it was one of the cool moments of the game, which makes me want to give him a higher rating, but I think the level would have been just as awesome even if it was against anyone else. So anyway, I think he deserves a C tier. Now let's talk about Graves. I really like this guy. I don't care if you guys say it was predictable that he's gonna turn on us or whatever. I just liked him. I'm really struggling with coming up with an explanation as to why I like him. Maybe it was the way he talks, or maybe I just like him as a leader. I don't know. I just like him and I think he was memorable, you know? And he serves as a supporting character and an antagonist, which makes him a very likable bad guy. This is unfortunate because we had to kill him in one of the unique missions in Modern Warfare 2 where it was like a boss fight in which he was inside a tank and we had nothing to fight against him, so we had to find these C4s and throw it at the tank just to, you know, kill him. So yeah, it was, you know, a really good level. So I think the level was awesome and I think he was one of the good solid characters in the game. So I think he deserves an A tier. Now General Shepard is, what can I say? He's a complete ass with a very punchable face. We all knew that he's gonna betray us at some point, so it was just a matter of when. So we all got into this knowing that he's a bad guy. But I think they could have made it like a little bit better, just like they did with Graves, where we get to play with him for some missions to kind of establish some trust before the inevitable betrayal. I get it that he's the general, so he's not supposed to be fighting with you in the front lines, but this is a freaking video game. We can have him fight in the front lines like we saw in the original Modern Warfare 2. And now I'm thinking that maybe my idea is kind of flawed because the developers may have actually considered establishing some trust with the General Shepard, but figured that no one would end up trusting Shepard no matter what he did. So maybe that's why they didn't even bother with building any trust with him. So yeah, he was just as expected, nothing more, nothing less. I feel like I want to put him in A tier, but he really didn't have any wow factor to him, so I gotta put him in B tier. Now let's talk about Laswell. There is nothing really wrong with this character, but there isn't much right either. It's just like she just exists. It also doesn't help that she's just bossing you around all the time, not only in the campaign, but she also does the same in Spec Ops. Like, it gets really annoying and I don't like it. She's also not present in a lot of the missions. Yeah, I know that she's a team leader or whatever she's supposed to be, so it doesn't make sense for her to be in the front lines all the time, but I just feel like she's a generic character that just keeps bossing us around and it's really pissing me off. I know that she's a veteran, but she's not a badass veteran, if you know what I mean. I think she deserves a C tier or maybe a B tier. I don't know. What do you guys think? Okay, I guess just B tier maybe, because they kind of tried making her seem like a badass in the campaign. But yeah, I don't know where to put her. It's between a B or a C. I'll just put her in B. I don't care. Now let's talk about Rodolfo. If you don't know who this guy is, or you just remembered him after me showing you his picture, it's okay because I didn't remember either. There's nothing to be said about this character other than he exists and he deserves a D tier. Let's move on. Now we got to the easy part. Well, it's not very easy because sometimes it's really hard to put your feelings into words, but I'll try my best. Anytime these characters are on screen, they completely steal the show. So let's start with Gaz first. The only problem is that everyone else is an expert or a veteran, you know? So every time Gaz is on screen, he's usually with one of the veterans, making us feel or think, you know, less of him. And I don't know if you noticed this, but almost every time when he's with someone, he's at the back, not in the front, like here, here, and here. And it makes sense because he's not a veteran and he's not a leader. He's just following orders, which you'd think would be bad, but it is much more relatable to us as players, or for me at least. I'm not a freaking leader. I don't know how to steal the show. I don't know how to be a badass. So this guy is the most relatable character in the game. Anyway, I was gonna give him an A tier, but after much thinking, because you know, I make these videos with really serious consideration and dedication, I think he deserves an S tier. Anyway, let's move on to Captain Price, which he has a very strong presence whenever he's on screen. His dialogue is so entertaining and memorable, and his character is just so unique. I especially like the confidence of Captain Price. Like, this guy is the real expert. You don't mess with him. He's just like John Wick in some way. So when he says this,
Then after I go for him, I'm coming for you.
then you're basically fucked, and there's no way around it. When Captain Price is around, you don't have to worry because he's a veteran with lots of experience. And the biggest proof of this is when they introduced the Ghost team. You'd think that Ghost would say something, but it was all Captain Price. And I just want to highlight something really funny about this cutscene. Ghost comes up with a bunch of masks like it's nothing. I mean, I understand if you have a couple of extra masks laying around, but it really doesn't make any sense that he has a bunch of them ready to go. Like, they were on the run when this happened, so there's no way they just bought them on the way to the HQ. I didn't think of this when I first saw this, but now I just thought it doesn't make any sense, really. Anyway, we all love Captain Price. He's the main star of the Modern Warfare series, not because he's an OG character, but because he's genuinely good. And that's why he also deserves an S tier. Now let's talk about Ghost. Ghost just reminds me of that one guy we used to hang out with who always had his headphones on. And I'm not talking about shit small AirPods like we have today. I'm talking about the real headsets. He doesn't engage in conversations much, doesn't seem very approachable, kind of weird in the surface, but there is still something interesting about him. I mean, why else would we hang out with him if he wasn't interesting in the first place? So whenever that guy took the headphones off to say something, we were always interested in what he had to say, no matter how lame it was. And Ghost is almost the same. He just does the job silently. He doesn't deeply engage in any conflict. He's just there following orders for the most part. What makes him interesting and mysterious is that he always has his mask on, always has his headphones on, and his voice is just so unique. That doesn't sound much on paper, but it's enough to make him stand out on his own. And as I said, Ghost is not a very talkative person. So that's why in the mission alone, they had the chance to make Ghost talk with Soap McTavish and kind of get to know his character a little bit. I mean, we didn't get much to know about his character, but at least we heard him talk. But it shows that there's more to Ghost than just his mask and his headphones. Anyway, I love Ghost. We all love Ghost. I mean, he's the most used operator in Warzone, so he definitely deserves an S tier as well. Now let's talk about Soap. Soap and Ghost in Modern Warfare 2 are just a match made in heaven. Infinity Ward really knew what they were doing. I talked about the mission alone when I talked about Ghost, and in that mission, the dialogue between these two is just amazing. And can we stop for a minute and talk about how sexy he looks? I'm not gay, but I think he's sexy as fuck. Don't judge me. Anyway, I love the voice acting. I love his accent. The guy looks sexy as fuck. I don't know what else to say. He deserves an S tier. Now, I saved the best for last. You know how hard it is to introduce a new character in an established series such as Modern Warfare and still manage to make it a likable character? That's really hard to do because the new character that they're trying to introduce must compete against already established characters, which are Captain Price, Ghost, Gaz, and Soap McTavish. But with Alejandro, damn, they knocked it out of the park. Seriously, when I first saw the artwork trailer, I was like, yeah, I know Captain Price, I know Ghost, I know Soap, I know Gaz, but who the f is this guy? But now, I really regret thinking that way because he's one of the best characters in the game. There's a lot that I like about him, especially in the looks department, but let's not get into that. But really, one thing that stood out for me and a lot of us is his facial expressions and the line delivery.
I've got my orders, and now you have yours.
And who the fuck do you think you are, cabrón? My men are inside!
The way he talks is just so awesome, I don't even know how to explain it. But anyway, I'm still surprised that they managed to introduce him as a new character and make him a total badass that he is. If you haven't guessed already, he also deserves an S tier. You may think that it's really boring and lame to put all of these in S tier, but I just want to tell you that I also tried making a ranking from 1 to 5 just to have a ranking, but I couldn't. It's so perfectly balanced. They're all equally awesome. They're like the 3 Spider-Men in No Way Home. Every Spider-Man in that movie was equally awesome, which is really hard to achieve with 3 characters, but Infinity Ward managed to make it with 5 characters. Good job, Infinity Ward. And if you still think that I am lame for giving them all an S tier and you think it's easy to do, then maybe it's true. Maybe I'm not good at this. So how about you come up with your own tier list in the comments? I'm really interested to know. So until next time, Jane, bye bye.